When you picture the Western Front, your mind likely goes straight to the deafening roar of an artillery shell tearing the earth apart. Armies fielded weapons of a size never seen before. Railway guns with barrels the size of factory smokestacks could level city blocks from miles away. Alongside the artillery came the creeping terror of chemical gas and the relentless crossfire of heavy machine guns. To survive this mechanized slaughter, millions of men did the only thing they could. They grabbed their shovels and dug deep into the dirt, hoping to outlast the bombardments. But here is the strange reality of the First World War. Even when the guns finally went quiet and the men were safely dug into their bunkers, the casualty numbers kept climbing. Men were dying, and entire units were falling apart in the silence. Commanders watched whole regiments vanish from the front lines, completely incapacitated, without a single shot being fired at them. The culprit was the human body louse, a parasite roughly the size of a sesame seed. Soldiers learned quickly that you could hide from the shrapnel. You could not shoot, dodge, or outrun a threat that was already living on your skin. The trenches were a perfect biological incubator. Men lived shoulder to shoulder in deep channels of stagnant water, liquid mud, and human waste, often unable to wash for weeks at a time. In those conditions, a few lice multiply into thousands. They embedded themselves in the thick wool seams of the soldiers' uniforms, crawling against their hosts 24 hours a day. Armies eventually recognized the threat and built massive sanitation stations behind the lines. Whole battalions would strip down while their uniforms were tossed into giant vats of boiling water or run through steam presses. A single surviving egg, hidden deep within a pleat, was enough to restart the cycle. Within a few days of returning to the front, the men were crawling with them all over again. The one thing keeping them warm in the freezing mud, their uniform, had become a suffocating trap they couldn't take off. The relentless itching was miserable, but the real danger lay inside the insect's gut. These parasites carried a bacterium that triggered a debilitating illness soldiers called trench fever. The louse didn't inject the disease when it bit. Instead, it left infected waste. Scratching the fiercely itchy bite rubbed the bacteria directly into their bloodstream. Once inside, the incubation period ended with a violent shock. Body temperatures would skyrocket up to 104 degrees. This fever brought on blinding headaches and a highly specific, agonizing symptom: intense radiating pain down the front of the shin bones. A soldier who cannot look at the light, cannot stand upright on his own legs, and cannot walk is a soldier who cannot hold the line. Beyond the physical disease, the psychological damage was quietly devastating. Imagine thousands of insects moving across your back, every minute of every day. The constant irritation meant men simply stopped sleeping. Exhaustion piled upon exhaustion, dulling their reaction times and slowly eroding their sanity. Then came the paranoia. Every pinch on your arm or leg could be the exact bite that infects you and pulls you out of action. The sheer volume of broken, infected men required immense logistical support. Medical Corps built entire facilities just to process and delouse the endless stream of soldiers whose bodies had finally given out. The parasite used the very nature of trench life to wear down the human mind, breaking their mental resolve long before the fever broke their bodies. This chart shows a comparison of wartime casualties. While combat injuries from artillery and gunfire make up the largest portion, the block right next to it reveals the staggering number of men incapacitated entirely by disease and trench fever. By 1918, millions of men had been infected. This tiny, microscopic bug achieved the exact same objective as a prolonged artillery barrage. It emptied the trenches. A heavily fortified position could hold out against a massive frontal assault, only to collapse a week later because 30% of the unit was bedridden with a raging fever. The war of attrition on the Western Front was a contest of logistics and firepower, but it was equally a battle against human biology. Looking back, we rightfully focus on the devastating physical trauma of gas attacks and heavy munitions. These are the visible scars of warfare. But the daily reality for the average infantryman was dictated by mud, cold, and the relentless creep of microscopic life taking over their uniforms. The true test of human endurance was surviving those quiet, invisible forces waiting for them in the dark.